Welcome to the Elliott Confidential Podcast. I'm Christopher Elliott, and I'm here with my son, Aren.
Howdy.
Howdy, how are you?
Well, it's been a long time since we've done this, and if you can hear me, it probably can hear that I'm sick a little bit.
Yeah, we got a bit of a
Getting
cold
a bit
going.
over that.
Me too, actually. We've gotten. I just think we're burning the candle at both ends.
Yeah, this itinerary that we've taken on over the past week has been very, very ambitious.
It has. We are in Berlin, Germany today, and we're going to talk a little bit about Berlin, but mostly we're going to talk about the last 2 weeks, which have been in Switzerland. Mm-hmm. And we're going to start with Berlin because that's where our question of the week is. And by the way, stick around until the end because we're going to be reading your comments from the last podcast. But in this is our second day here in Berlin, and we went on an urban garden tour, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was a really interesting experience. You know, all the black bears are coming into season real soon, so we were able to try some of them, and they were ripe and delicious.
They were very, very good, yes.
But there's also a bunch of other plants that they grow here in Berlin that you really wouldn't expect.
Yeah, I was really shocked. Anyway, our friend Inez took us around and showed us all of these urban gardens. We will have more about that in our next podcast and more about Berlin too. But the reason that I mentioned the urban garden is it's our question of the week, which is, what is the strangest thing you've ever eaten when you've traveled? In our last podcast, we were in Zurich, Switzerland, which I like to say Zürich because I speak a little bit of German. And we then went to, we did a rail tour of Switzerland, a sustainability rail tour, which I'm writing about in Forbes for this week. And then we went to a place in Switzerland called, it's the Jungfrau region, but we went to Grindelwald, which is one of the most popular tourism destinations.
Yeah, it was a very, very cool place.
It definitely was very beautiful. But let's start with the rail thing, because we've been traveling around Switzerland by rail for the last month. And so I think we should begin with SBB, which is the Swiss National Rail System. What are your impressions of the Swiss trains, Aren?
You know, it's really hard to compare them to any other system. They're sort of the originators. They produce, well, not SBB, but Switzerland produces a lot of trains for the rest of the world.
Yep.
So, and of course, SBB being the Swiss train company, if you want to call it that, it's the
national rail carrier,
it's
right?
The national rail carrier, exactly.
It's like Amtrak for Switzerland.
And so Switzerland is providing these trains to the rest of the world and also buying it. And it's interesting because you see how really perfect the rail system is. It's not 100%, but actually being in Germany now, I can see its merits. It's always on time.
Yeah, the trains always run on time.
You would think in Germany it's the same. No. And similarly, all of the trains are super clean. Here, it's not that. You know, you can go to a place like Melbourne and Greece, and they'll have systems, train systems, streetcars, and they're going to be nice, but they're nothing compared to what you get in Switzerland.
Yeah.
Maybe only parallel to that of Japan in a competition.
I would say, and I agree with you, I think that the Swiss trains are the gold standard for trains. Everything's clean, everything runs on time. The customer service is really great. They're also, on the downside, very expensive. Yes. I mean, if you walk into one of the trains and, or board one of the trains, I wouldn't want you to walk into one, but if you board one of the trains and you have to pay for a ticket, you're going to be spending much more than you would think. It's, a fare is, you're talking about $50, $60 to get from one of the major cities to another one. So it's not cheap.
It's not cheap, but you know what? The SBB app is very user-friendly, very tourist-friendly. We have not had that same experience here in Germany, where they have a special app that requires you to have a special German bank account and have a special German phone number. And unfortunately, if you're a tourist, you don't have those things. You're not going to be able to use it. And I think Japan also suffers the same thing. Unfortunately, we were not able to actually get tickets on that app that Japan has.
So we started in Zurich, and then we went down to, we just basically did a big circle around Switzerland. So we went to St. Moritz, which is a ski area, very popular with tourists. We went to Zermatt, which is another very popular ski area. And then we also hit Geneva. And then we went up to Lucerne. But let's hit each one of those destinations, because I think that these are places that maybe our listeners have heard of but have never actually been to. So, St. Moritz.
Well, what do you think of St. Moritz? Firstly, before I say anything.
Well, it was really touristy, but very beautiful. You've got the nice lake. Every one of these places has usually a nice lake and extremely stunning, beautiful mountains, snow-capped mountains. But I don't know. I think I probably would have preferred to be there in the ski season, but you could tell that it was one of those places that really caters to mostly affluent visitors.
I think I want to set the scene a little bit more, because I think maybe the listeners don't have a complete idea of what it's like in the summer. So unfortunately, about half the time it's going to be cloudy. I mean, it could just be the weather that we were experiencing. Apparently, Europe has been dealing with a very cold, rainy summer. Very wet, very cold.
Yeah.
So this might just be because of that particular weather phenomenon. But in any case, we dealt with about half the days being cloudy and rainy. But there are these beautiful wildflowers everywhere, and every Swiss city has many hiking trails that you can take advantage of.
That is true.
Really,
yes.
Almost anywhere. And the water is this beautiful turquoise blue because it comes from the glaciers, except in Lucerne. So that's painting the picture. Now, what I noticed about St. Moritz, if you want to call it that,
St. Moritz, yeah.
is that it had a very different clientele than all of the other Swiss cities that we had been to.
Yeah, more, actually, I want to say more British, and then also some Italian people.
Yes, and most of them were solo travelers, in the sense that they were not traveling on a giant bus. They were traveling maybe individually, like as a family, or with a friend.
St. Moritz is closer to the Italian border, so you have a lot of people there who speak Italian, and it is. I am certain that if we went there during ski season, it would be absolutely incredible. The skiing would be totally next level. During the off season, though, it's much more of a hiking destination. And that is also true of our next destination, Zermatt.
Yep.
Also one of those ski areas. In fact, there had been some flooding there, so we had to get out of the train, take some buses to get there. But once we were there, we found very similar, with one really big difference: the type of visitor.
Yes. Zermatt attracts a wider audience, definitely more international, like Singapore, China, India, those generally, but also from other parts of the world. I mean, obviously Europe and the United States.
Yeah, a couple Americans there too, right?
Yes.
But I saw a lot of Chinese people there.
Yes.
But
unfortunately, Zermatt really is not very accessible at this time of year, just because of all of the nonsense you have to go through. You have to go take a train, and then a bus, and then another train.
Right, and I think that was just that way because of the flooding, and the flooding by now has already abated, so I think that you probably can get there by train. But I want to take a moment to talk about the Glacier Express, or as the Brits like to call it, the Glacier Express. It is the slowest express train in the world, probably. 8 hours to go from St. Moritz to Zermatt. And it's that iconic train that you see all those pictures of, winding through the mountains on the little narrow bridge, going through the tunnels, and then all the snow and everything like that. Not so much right now because we're there in the summer, but during the winter, I am sure it is just up around each corner a picture. What did you think of the Glacier Express?
Honestly, I wouldn't recommend it. I think it's 8 hours, but it's really difficult to actually make use of any of it, because The windows have a lot of glare, and also you're not seeing really that beautiful scenery. If you want to see good scenery, go to one of the cities, go take a hike. You're going to see a lot more, even if you go up one of the cable cars.
I agree with you that the best way to see Switzerland is put on a pair of hiking boots and start walking. A lot of the people that we were on this tour with, it was an interesting group, but they did a lot of sitting and not so much walking. And I think that that's a real shame because Switzerland is really a walking destination. You've got to get up and walk around.
Yeah, I mean, the Swiss people we talked to even said the real Swiss experience is hiking.
Yes, well, and eating too, but
well,
we don't really do the fondue so much, but people did.
Yeah.
So from there, it was on to Geneva. And Geneva is a completely different experience because it is not German, it's French.
Yeah. And I've got to say, the food experience improved a millionfold.
Oh, yeah.
Just because of that.
Well, we were staying at a hotel right near the train station, and we decided to go out and get some food. And we ended up in kind of like a little bit of a rundown neighborhood, if there is such a thing in Geneva. But this was a Middle Eastern neighborhood. So they had some Turkish people, but then you also had Lebanese people. And Lebanese people, they love their restaurants. Mm-hmm. So we found some really great Lebanese food there.
Yeah, we decided to do a falafel tour.
That's right.
And this was only a prelude to an even more important tour, which we'll talk about shortly. But it was a falafel tour. We had 2 falafel sandwiches to satiate our hunger, which by that point had grown immensely
right.
because of it's difficult to eat only at like co-ops and Migros.
Right. Well, those are the 2 grocery stores that they have there, and we were basically eating grocery store food after a while because the restaurants were not only expensive, but they basically served the same thing, and we were getting a little bit tired of. Well, it's hard because we're on a plant-based diet, so it's very difficult to get the kind of food that you need.
And so what we ended up doing was just buying a lot of bread and hummus and apples because that had worked for us before. It worked for me at least. I remember doing a tour in Tasmania and I just bought a lot of, it was peanut butter and hummus and bread and apples. But there was no peanut butter. I mean, there was, but I just didn't get it. So we did that and we were okay, but it got really old really fast.
Yeah, that's too much of a good thing. So Geneva itself, though, was very French, probably more French than France, and but an extremely beautiful city. Wish we'd had more time to spend there. It's just a very cool place, and Lake Geneva, so nice.
It is one of the most beautiful cities in the world. If it just weren't so damn crowded.
I know. Well, right
I have to
now,
say, it
especially.
was not a chill city to be in. It was crazy.
And I have to say, the Swiss, they know they have a good thing. They have a little bit of an attitude about like, well, we have the UN here, the Red Cross, we've got all of these organizations here, and P.S., it's a beautiful country too. They know how good they have it. You could kind of tell there was that attitude. At the very least, it was an attitude that we perceived whenever we went to a grocery store and we saw these. We got sticker shock from how expensive the food was.
Honestly, you get used to it after a while.
You never get used. I never get used to it, Aren. Mm-hmm. Never.
No, you just stop buying for the budget options.
Our next stop was Lucerne. And Lucerne, I have to say, was probably my favorite Swiss city.
Yes.
Why do you think I liked it so much?
Well, I think partly because they speak German there, and partly because everyone there is just super chill.
They're laid back, yeah.
Very laid back.
Yeah. We were just talking about how the Swiss have a little bit of an attitude. In Lucerne, not so much. We were there during the Stadtfest, the city festival, and everyone was just having a good time. Beautiful city, also has a lake. If you have a Swiss city, it has to have a lake. I think there's a law that requires that.
It's just too bad. Lucerne's lake is not as nice as Geneva. Lake Geneva, wow, it's this beautiful color of blue. It smells great. Lucerne, not as much.
The Lucerne lake didn't smell bad, but
No, I'm not saying it smelled
There's
bad.
a glacier smell that some of the lakes have.
It just didn't have that blue water. It was just kind of like...
right.
It was like
Comme ci, comme ça.
Yeah, it was like the Zürichersee, whatever.
Oh, yeah, right. Even Zurich has its own lake. Anyway, like I said, all these Swiss cities, they must have lakes. It's a requirement. I liked it because it was really pretty and very accessible. And we actually did another food tour there, which was, by this time we had gotten so tired of eating at grocery stores. What did we do?
Well, we went on a doner kebab rampage.
Rampage?
Rampage,
yes.
No, it was like...
First of all, you have to describe what a doner kebab is for those of us who do not know.
To be honest, I don't even know what a doner kebab is. I just know that it's some sort of it's like a pita.
Right, a kebab is like it's
a salad,
meat inside
and
it,
and then probably also mayonnaise.
Oh yeah, they love their mayonnaise here.
Some sort of sauce.
They do have quite a few plant-based restaurants, and the Swiss have invented an artificial meat, kind of an almost meat or whatever it's called planted. And it tastes very, very good. So a lot of the döner places will serve regular meat alongside this planted meat. So we were able to go and really enjoy the döner, which really reminds me a lot of like maybe a burrito. I don't know. But it wasn't a burrito.
You know what?
Without the beans.
I do miss burritos.
Oh, yeah.
Good burrito. Man.
Yeah, me too.
It's too bad that it becomes so expensive.
Well, in Switzerland they were. I miss American food too. So, after being abroad for this long, you do miss U.S. food.
Yeah.
Anyway, we went out to, how many places did we visit, Aren?
4.
At least 4.
Yes, we visited 4, and then we decided to go back to our favorite.
From there, we went to Grindelwald. And that's really where we spent more time than in any of these other places. We were there for 3 nights. What makes Grindelwald so awesome?
Here's the thing with Grindelwald. Grindelwald is in between 2... it's in a valley, right?
It's 3 big mountains
all around it.
Right.
It's just,
the Mönch, the Jungfrau, and what's the other one?
It's like the Eiger.
Yeah.
So, but that's only on one side. You also have mountains on the other side, and you have easy access to cable cars and trains that go up those mountains into the glaciers.
Yeah.
And will take you to, death-defying heights where you feel like you're going to die because the altitude is like 12,000 feet.
Yeah, we were at the top of the glacier, the Jungfrau Glacier, and it was snowing. This was like on July, I want to say it was the 1st of July or 2nd of July. So it's the middle of the summer. It's snowing up there. We didn't see a thing. And then our guide takes out this handful of raisins and says, "Here, put this on top of your head." And you're like, why would I put raisins on top of my head? And there are these crows. They landed on your head and ate the raisins.
Oh my God. It's funny, but you know what? We got a lot of great photos.
Yes, we do.
The sad part about it is that some of them didn't turn out because we were laughing so hard.
I know.
And when you're at that altitude, you're not making a lot of sense. I was trying to keep calm, but
I think that's why I have a little bit of a cold, because I was up there and I just got really
I have a cold
out.
because Americans make me sick.
Oh my God.
No, I'm kidding.
Well, no, we were on that tour. Everyone else was American and everyone got sick. So they did. The Americans did make you sick. It just happened to be Americans. Great.
No, tours make me sick.
Tourists make you make me sick.
No, it's tours, not tourists. Okay,
fine.
Well,
maybe
tourists
do too. Okay. We are of course just kidding. I think that Grindelwald is easily one of the most stunningly beautiful places. I tend to use that word a lot in Europe. We ended up walking the next day up to an alpine lake. It was absolutely gorgeous, even when it's overcast. it was still really something. Now, on the other side of the mountain, there's something called First Mountain, and they have a cliff walk. You can actually walk alongside a cliff. They've built a walkway along a cliff. It is one of the scariest walks that I've ever done. So, Aren, if you had only one place to go in Switzerland, where would it be?
That's a great question.
You like saying that. I would say Basel.
Basel.
Yeah.
Why Basel?
Basel is, I love all of them, and I definitely liked Lucerne, so I would be either Basel or Lucerne, but I like Basel. I like the people in Basel. They're so understated, but Basel is also a very beautiful city, and as a bonus, if you want to, you can get into Germany and France. So you can have basically a vacation in 3 countries. There's also the Rhine River, so you can go do a cruise up the Rhine River. So that's why I would choose Basel.
I think that, like you, I would say it would be either Basel or Lucerne. And the reason why is because I think it offers a typical Swiss experience. It's not over-touristed yet.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about being stuck in with everyone else. And also, it's unique enough so that way you can explore still.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's not like Zermatt where everyone knows what you're there for.
Right.
I think going to a place like Lucerne or to Basel, you have a chance to really explore like what Switzerland is like on its own, not as like a painted tourist destination, but I think furthermore, I think what makes a place like Basel or Lucerne really great is that it gives you the opportunity to see the best of Switzerland.
Yeah.
Because it's not the busy city like Zurich or Geneva. Zurich and Geneva are really busy, really wound tight, and if you want to go there, I don't think that they paint a very positive picture for Switzerland because there's really not a lot for you to do as a tourist except for shop. And in the case of Geneva, I just think that it's too much like New York City to be really enjoyable as a pedestrian.
Well, I loved Switzerland. I should start by saying that. Some places I love more than others. Now, when it comes to skiing, I think it would be a much more difficult choice. You know, I think that a place like Zermatt would be amazing, you know, with the Matterhorn in the background and skiing up there on the glacier. St. Moritz is beautiful, and I also would love to go back to a place like Grindelwald. So those are all really great destinations. And, you know, don't forget Arosa as well, which is a place that we've been to before too. Arosa is just so beautiful. A little bit of a smaller resort, but beautiful. Really, it's difficult to do a podcast about all of Switzerland because there's just so much to talk about. Yeah. In our last podcast, we asked about the most expensive place that you've been to. And boy, did we have some responses. So Suzanne says, Iqaluit, I'm sure I mispronounced that, because the groceries, that she says they're out of the world expensive. We stayed at a bed and breakfast where Leonardo DiCaprio, already an environmental activist by then, also had stayed, because guess why? It was the only place to stay other than a very expensive hotel nearby.
Christy writes, Nantucket and not worth it. Rio de Janeiro, a bikini scrap was over $100 and a luggage lock was $65.
We know what that's
Really?
like.
Wow.
We used to live in Rio.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
I
didn't
mean,
know.
Rio was not cheap. It was
No.
maybe a little bit pricier than most of the United States, but man, a bikini scrap and a luggage lock. We never went shopping for those. So.
No, I don't think I've ever been shopping for a bikini. I'll just have to take your word for it, Christy. Francis says probably Denmark. I didn't find Germany, Holland, or Portugal or Spain that expensive, but it could have been the years that I traveled there. Oh, interesting. Well, you know, we're in Germany right now. What are the prices like here in Germany?
Well, the German prices are pretty good, actually. They're not really significantly higher. In some cases, they're lower than what you would find in the States for select goods.
Yep. It's actually not too terribly bad.
Yeah. Debbie writes, the food in Alaska was very expensive, but the trip as a whole was worth every cent. Would go back in a heartbeat.
And you know what? I would go back in a heartbeat too. I love Alaska.
That's true. Alaska, everything is about twice as expensive.
Yeah, and in fact, we were talking about glaciers before. Alaska's got some really cool glaciers. See them before they're all melted. Anyway, thanks for listening to the LA Confidential podcast from Berlin, Germany. We will have more in our next podcast on the German capital and what's here, and I can't wait to tell you more about it.
All right. See you guys later.
All right. Tschüss.
Take care.